Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep, really deep, into a movie that, well, I'm sure you've heard of.
A classic.
Yeah, we're talking King Kong, the original from 1933.
Mm.
Giant ape, Empire State Building, the whole
Oh,
deal.
well, but there's so much more to it than just that.
Right, like how they even make this thing.
Yeah.
1933, no computers, no fancy CGI.
Yeah, it was a different world, technically speaking.
Right.
But even looking past the special effects, the story itself, the characters, there are layers there that, well, they're worth exploring.
Okay, so before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's
Yeah.
let's set the stage. We've got this filmmaker,
He's
right?
obsessed.
Oh yeah, totally obsessed with finding this like eighth wonder of the world kind of thing.
When he thinks he's found it, charters a ship, heads off to this mysterious island, no idea what he's really getting into.
Of course, there's a beautiful woman
But
involved.
truly.
So they get to this island. What do they
Uh-uh.
find?
Well, they find Kong. Giant gorilla, worshipped by the native tribe who live on the island. The classic Beauty and the Beast setup.
And then it's all downhill from there, right? I mean, for Kong at least.
Yeah.
Captured, brought back to New York, put on display.
It's the story of, I don't know, ambition gone wrong, trying to control something that's just too powerful, too wild.
Okay, so how did they do it? I mean, making a giant ape come to life back then, that had to be.
Magic, almost. Stop motion animation. These guys, Willis O'Brien and his team, they built models.
Models.
Yeah, miniature Kongs, dinosaurs, everything. And they'd move them tiny bit by tiny bit, take a picture, move them again, another picture. Hours and hours of work for just a few seconds of film.
Wow, that's insane.
Right. And it wasn't just moving the models. They had to match them up with the real actors, make it look like they were interacting. They even built a full-scale mechanical Kong head for close-ups. Amazingly detailed, all these moving parts to get the expressions just right.
So they put all this work in, this cutting-edge technology for the time. But what about the story itself?
Hmm?
Kong, he's a monster, right? But the film, it kind of makes you feel for him.
Exactly. He's not just some mindless beast. You see his intelligence, his curiosity, even his tenderness. That scene where he picks up Ann Darrow, the woman he's captured, there's this moment he just looks at her, almost like he's trying to figure her out.
Yeah. It's not what you expect from a giant ape.
And that's part of the brilliance of the film. It makes you question your own assumptions, your own perceptions of what's monstrous, what's human.
So is that what the filmmakers were going for? Some kind of deeper meaning?
I think so.
Yeah.
This clash between nature and civilization, between instinct and ambition, it runs throughout the whole movie. Look at Carl Denham, the filmmaker. He's obsessed with capturing Kong, bringing him back to the world, exploiting him for fame and fortune.
Sounds a bit like what happens to Kong, doesn't it? He's taken from his home, put on display, ultimately destroyed by the very people who wanted to profit from it.
You got it. There's a real tragedy there, a parallel between Denham's ambition and Kong's fate. It's a cautionary tale, really.
Okay, so we've got the special effects, we've got the deeper themes, but let's be honest. King Kong, it's also got those moments that, well, they kind of make you jump out of your seat.
Oh, yeah. There's the spider pit sequence, which, it was actually considered too scary, too violent for audiences back then.
Really. They cut it out.
Yeah, for a while. But it's been restored now, and it's pretty intense. Kong fighting off these giant spider creatures. It's dark, it's brutal, but it also shows how far the filmmakers were willing to go to capture the raw power of nature, the dangers that lurk out there.
But then you have those scenes where Kong is almost playful. Right.
Mhm.
Swatting at biplanes like they're toys.
Exactly. It's that mix of terror and humor, of brute strength and surprising tenderness that makes Kong such a compelling character. He's a monster, yes, but he's also so much more than that.
So who are the masterminds behind all this?
Well, you've got Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack, the directors. These guys, they were adventurers themselves. They'd filmed real animals in jungles, so they knew how to capture that sense of awe, that sense of danger.
And then there's O'Brien with his stop-motion magic.
It was the perfect combination. Cooper had the vision, Schoedsack had the experience, and O'Brien had the technical brilliance to bring it all to life.
And let's not forget the music.
Oh, the score by Max Steiner. It's epic. It's one of the first films to have a full orchestral score, and it completely elevates the emotional impact of the story. You can feel the tension, the fear, the wonder, all through the music.
It's mind-blowing, really. 1933. And they're creating something that still feels so powerful, so relevant today.
It speaks to the timeless nature of the story, these primal themes that we still grapple with. Ambition, our relationship with nature, the allure and danger of the unknown.
I'm exhausted just thinking about all the effort that went into this. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll delve into the lasting impact of King Kong, its legacy on filmmaking and culture. All right, so much to unpack there.
Sure.
But yeah, let's talk about King Kong's legacy. It's almost 100 years old, and yet we're still talking about it, remaking it, referencing it. Why do you think that is?
I think it's, well, it's the story, right? This giant ape, this creature that represents both, I don't know, the power of nature and the danger of it.
Yeah.
It's something that's always fascinated us, scared us, maybe even a little bit of both.
Yeah, and it's not just Kong himself, right? It's what the film is saying about us, about humanity,
Yeah.
our ambition, our greed, this idea that we can control nature, or even should.
Exactly. I mean, Denham, he's so focused on capturing Kong, on bringing him back to civilization, he doesn't stop to think about the consequences, about what it might do to Kong, about what it might do to us.
And it's a story that unfortunately feels even more relevant today. I mean, look at what we're doing to the planet, to the environment.
It's like a warning, almost. King Kong is saying, hey, be careful. There are things out there that you can't control, forces that are bigger than you.
And it's not just a warning, right? It's
Yeah.
also this incredibly entertaining, exciting story. The special effects, the action sequences, they're still impressive, even by today's standards.
Oh, absolutely. King Kong was groundbreaking in that sense. It pushed the boundaries of what was possible with filmmaking, with special effects, and it paved the way for so many other films, so many other monsters.
Like Godzilla.
Right. Godzilla, Jurassic Park, all those giant creature movies, they owe a debt to King Kong. They wouldn't exist without it.
It's funny, though, King Kong, it's a love story, isn't it? I mean, Kong and Ann Darrow, there's this strange, almost tragic connection between them.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that makes the film so compelling. You've got this monster, this force of nature, and yet he's capable of feeling tenderness, even love.
And Anne, she's terrified of him at first, but you can see her empathy growing, her understanding.
It's this classic Beauty and the Beast dynamic, but with a twist. Because in this case, the Beast, he's the one who's truly innocent. He's the one who's being exploited.
And ultimately, he's the one who pays the price. That final scene atop the Empire State Building, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just trying to protect her.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? Kong, this symbol of the wild, of the untamed, brought down by human technology, by human ambition.
It's a reminder that sometimes our greatest strengths can also be our greatest weaknesses. Our ability to create, to innovate, it can also lead to destruction, to exploitation.
And that's the legacy of King Kong, I think. It's a film that continues to challenge us, to make us think about our place in the world, about our responsibility to each other and to the natural world.
Yeah, it's a film that, well, it stays with you. Okay, so we've talked about the themes, the characters, the impact. But has King Kong received any formal recognition, awards or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. King Kong has been, well, it's been celebrated pretty much since it came out.
I mean, that makes sense. But, like,
Yeah.
officially.
Oh, absolutely. It's been recognized by, like, the American Film Institute. They have those lists, the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
King Kong is on a lot of them, like the 100 greatest American movies.
Wow. So it's considered one of the best even all these years later.
Definitely. And not just for its time, but, like historically important, influential.
So they give it awards for that.
Kinda. Like in 1991, the Library of Congress, they put it in the National Film Registry.
What's that?
It's like a big deal for movies. It means they think it's like culturally significant, needs to be preserved, for future generations and all that.
So basically, like a museum piece, but for movies.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense.
Hmm.
But it's more than just a historical artifact, right? People still watch it, still enjoy it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, some of the special effects, they might look a little dated now,
Yeah.
but the story, the characters, the emotions, they still hold up. That's what makes a classic, right? Something that speaks to, like, the human condition, regardless of when it was made.
It's funny, though. We've talked about all these deep themes, the impact on filmmaking, but let's be real, most people probably remember King Kong for the giant ape climbing the Empire State Building.
Yeah, that's the iconic image, isn't it? And it's more than just a cool visual. It's symbolic, this clash between nature and civilization, between Kong and everything that the modern world represents.
And it's sad, too. He's just trying to protect Anne.
And he's doomed from the start.
That line, it was beauty killed the beast.
Mhm.
It's so memorable, even if he hasn't seen the movie. It's like it captures this whole, I don't know, this whole sense of tragedy of
Mhm.
something Beautiful and powerful being destroyed.
Exactly. It's a line that sticks with you.
Yeah, it does. So we've covered a lot of ground here. King Kong, 1933, groundbreaking special effects, enduring themes, and of course, a giant ape climbing a skyscraper. What's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this deep dive?
Hmm. I think it's that, King Kong, it's more than just a monster movie. It's a story about us, about our relationship with the world, about the choices we make. It's a story that, well, it asks more questions than it answers. And I think that's part of what makes it so powerful, so lasting.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. Well, that's King Kong for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And as always, keep exploring.